I'm a professor, an organic chemist. I work in the areas of nanotechnology and across many different fields, everything from medicine to the environment to metals and elements extraction and to electronics. I've been a professor for 38 years. I've started 17 companies that are operating right now, in the midst of starting 3 more. 3 companies are now public companies. And I teach, I lecture, I do both undergraduate classes and graduate classes, and I have a big research program here at Rice University with graduate students and postdocs working in the laboratories.
You said your PhD is in what field again?
Synthetic organic chemistry.
Okay. And I know this is an important issue for you in this field. I'm thinking about how it impacts our national security. You have concerns about China, about nanotechnology, and about chemical issues. Are we dependent upon China for nanotechnology and the certain chemicals, base metals or whatever?
The U.S., it's not that the U.S. is beholden to China on nanotechnology. I mean, a lot of their expertise came from the U.S., not that them stealing it. It was more that we trained their students. I mean, I was a graduate student when the first visiting scholars started coming to the United States in the late 70s, and then when the graduate students first started coming to the U.S. in I think it was 1981. I remember when they first started coming, and I was good friends with them, and we worked in the labs together. And then my first student was a Chinese woman, and I've had Chinese people in my laboratory ever since then, and I am training them. I trained them in nanotechnology, and they taught me. I mean, we learn from each other. That's the whole thing about a PhD. And many of those students stayed in the United States. They became excellent citizens. They pay their taxes, and they're in our national laboratories right now. Their descendants, their children occupy our top universities. These first and second generation Chinese, and so they've been excellent for the United States. And what I say is, if China has stolen things from the United States, stolen intellectual property, we've gotten about 45 years of their best brains have stayed in the United States. And become very active and good citizens, wonderful people that have really progressed. There's no way that the United States could have progressed technologically without that base of people. They came in because they're highly skilled in the sense that they worked very hard to be able to get here. In all my years, I've never had a lazy Chinese student from China, never, because all the lazy ones never get here. Only the best came, and they worked very hard. Now, more of them are going back these days because they're encouraged to go back after they get their PhD, but it's mostly because the jobs are hard to get in the United States. It's become harder for them to get jobs in the United States, harder for them to stay here, so they're going back. And I have my former students at all the top universities in China have 1 or 2 of my former students in them. As professors there. So it's been a mixed bag in that sense. Is the U.S. dependent upon them? Yes, the U.S. is dependent upon them for critical metals, many critical metals. Critical metals just meaning metals that the U.S. does not have ample supply of itself, so it imports most of what it needs. That didn't have to be the case. I mean, it wasn't like somebody put a gun to our head and said, you must buy from us. We sold the technology to the Chinese. We didn't think it was very useful. We wanted to offshore manufacturing. We thought we'd be more of a service country. And so we fell into this trap of getting used to buying the materials from other places, and particularly China. And so now we're very dependent. And now that relations have gone kind of south between the United States government and the Chinese government, now we're quite worried that they could cut us off from this, as they have with several of the metals. So they've stopped selling several of those metals in the United States. So we have to scurry around. We do have access to many of the metals through the United States. But our whole program is we take waste. We take the waste electronics. All the metals we need are in our waste. And instead of taking our electronics waste and shipping it off to Africa and just dumping it off there, we just need to learn to extract that. And that's what we're learning how to do, because the presence of these critical metals is all in our waste. And I don't mean just our cell phones. I mean in much bigger systems. So if you take, for example, a data center, they replace their printed circuit boards every 1 to 3 years. That is mountains of printed circuit boards. And those are full of these critical metals. And so we're learning how to extract those out from those. But we can do it from ores as well. The country has great access to those. But we have a lot of restrictions on mining. The rare earth elements, the U.S. used to do a lot of rare earth element mining. In fact, all that technology came from the U.S. We learned how to remove rare earth metals because we were actually going after the uranium. We were going after the radioactive elements when we were building our nuclear arsenal. And so we worked out all that technology, but that technology was sold to China in the 1970s because we didn't think it was necessary anymore, and we let the Chinese run the rare earth element business. And so now we're gearing back up, and we're taking it from waste. We can take it from ores. We have access to ores as well in the U.S., but do we want to go back into the mining operation? That's a decision we have to make. But as far as my group and the companies I've started, we're primarily getting it out of waste. Thank you for joining me today. If you could give us a like, share, or podcast review, we would appreciate it. If you have any questions, you could send them to ask@jesusandscience.org, and we'll try to answer some of those questions in an upcoming video. And if you do not believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus Christ, and you want to hear about why I believe, send me an email to tour@drjamestour.org, and we'll get together by Zoom, and I'll share with you why I embrace the resurrection of Jesus Christ.